Namaskara ellargu. This
Good
evening,
evening.
we are going to be having a very fascinating discussion on getting Bengaluru moving on buses, on making public transport once more the top priority. I go back to my childhood where we used to have a little song, government, not, no, how does it go? Bus bantu basu, government basu. That used to be a little thing that we used to say as little kids. And a lot of Bangalore citizens have forgotten that and are focused mostly on private transport. And we're trying to see how our city's, mobility challenges can be addressed if we pay attention to buses once again. And we're having this discussion in the context of, coming out of the COVID lockdown. And during the COVID lockdown, one of the few services that was available to enable our, essential workers and others to get around, to be able to get to work and to do their crucial jobs was the work of BMTC, which stepped up and ensured that that crucial mobility service was still available. So today we're going to be discussing numerous dimensions of buses and and how we can actually make Bangalore move much more quickly and efficiently using public transport. To join us today in what is actually the fourth of a 5-part series of seminars and webinars, which we call the Bengaluru Mobility Summit, I have 4 excellent panelists. And before I get to them, let me introduce myself as well. I'm Rajiv Gowda. I'm one of the co-sponsors of this event under the banner of the Bengaluru Needs You initiative, which is a part of the Resurgent India Trust's initiatives. I used to be a member of the Rajya Sabha until last month, and I've been engaged, an old resident of Bengaluru from birth, and would love to contribute to improving the situation in every dimension. I do, of course, occasionally take the bus to the airport. So it's otherwise, mostly the metro or private transport. So that's part of the challenge. And today we have, we're very, very happy and lucky to have as our co-partners in this initiative, the Bengaluru Political Action Committee. And the Bengaluru Political Action Committee is represented today by our moderator for the session, and that is Revati Ashok. Revati Ashok is the honorary managing trustee and has come to the world of Bengaluru and public policy and citizen engagement after decades of work in the private sector in very senior positions. And BPAC needs to be complemented for one of its most interesting initiatives, which is the Bangalore, it's called B-CLIP, which is a leadership training program for civic leaders, people who would go on to make a difference to the city, just like everybody else who are here today. Now, basically, Revati will be taking over the moment I stop talking. And the other participants, we're very happy to have with us Shikha, our IAS officer, who is the managing director of BMTC, the Bangalore Metropolitan Transport Corporation. And that is the entity that runs our buses, and which over the years has done some amazing, come up with some amazing innovations. For example, the Volvo buses, which ensure that many people who would not want to be in a regular bus still have an option to take public transport. And so that's an alternative that we have managed to add to the fleet. Then, of course, in the last few years, BMTC has had introduced a hub and spoke system on the main arterials, and something that she is going to tell us more about, which is the experience with the bus lanes and what are possible going forward. Anyway, so welcome Shikha, welcome Revati. And joining them, we have 2 other panelists. We have Sonal Kulkarni. Sonal is the Sonal is right now a consultant with the Directorate of Urban Land Transport and is working with them on innovations regarding utilization of data, etc. And also is a co-founder of an organization called Urban Morph, so which is also in the domain of improving urban transportation alternatives. And our fourth and final panelist is Shaheen Shisa, who is Shasa, who is part of a co-founder of the Bengaluru Bus Prayanikara Vedike, which is a platform which brings bus users together and brings their concerns to the table. And she is very much at the forefront of the right to mobility initiatives that are very central to how we should be approaching transportation alternatives and integrating them and making sure that users have the kind of services that they would need to have. Anyway, that's as far as my role is concerned. I will come back at the very end. But Revati Ashok, our honorary managing trustee of BPAC, I request you to kindly take over the session and moderate in the course of the next hour and plus. At the end of this session, there will be Q&A, and so everyone will, I request everyone, and Revati will also repeat this on and off, to please put in their questions in the chat box, and they'll be either asked as individual questions or multiple questions which are on the same theme will be collated and shared as well. Over to you, Revati. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajiv. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. And thank you, Shikha, for taking your time off on very busy, when you have so many busy things to do. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Let me take the next 10 minutes to just take everybody through some thoughts on public transport and why we have all gathered today to have this very important discussion on public transport. And this is basically because we have a very unique situation in Bangalore where only 48% of the overall public transport, we have only 48% public transport, whereas cities like Mumbai are at 80%. I don't know how many people know this, but this can tell you the scale of the problem that we have to surmount to become at least like Mumbai. People complain about Mumbai, but Mumbai has significant public transport. And for us, given the way the city has grown and the way the size of the city and its road conditions, etc., bus is always going to be the primal modal transport for a significant portion of the next few years. So really, I think the discussion is around how do we incentivize people to use buses more often? What do we need to do to incentivize more people to use buses? BPAC has been very much engaged in this discussion. We have done some studies on various dimensions of this, and I'll quickly take you through that. And you can also see that the share of private vehicles in the city surged by 280% from 2007 to 2020. That is amounting to 8 million vehicles. And the question is, the next few slides I want to take you through, why is this happening? On the one hand, we are at the lowest in public transport compared to other cities. Private vehicles are surging. And between 2011 and 2019, the BMTC strength increased only by 7.89%, whereas the population went up by 32%. So really, our goal today is to really look at how we can have 80% ridership on public transport in Bengaluru by 2030, of which bus will be a very, very significant portion. And our discussion is to see how we can increase the total share of BMTC buses, the population of buses, to at least 15,000 by 2022. this is a significant ask that we are making, because over the last 3 years, there has been no addition to the fleet at all. So that is where we are hoping that the government will make a larger investment, and the subsequent discussions after this will really revolve around some of the things that we need to do to increase that 48%. Can you move to the next slide, please? So we did a study on the first and last mile connectivity, which was one of the key reasons when we did a study of over 1,200 people in November, December last year. Little did we know that we would be inflicted by COVID, but at that point, we wanted to understand more in detail what people are saying about travel. If you want more details, you can go to the website, but really some of the key points were, if you want to, what are the options for people for last mile connectivity to a bus? You can walk, but you don't have footpaths. So we are saying at least 1 kilometer around a bus stop or a metro station should be walkable footpaths. That will significantly encourage people to walk. And this becomes even more relevant in today's COVID context, where people don't want to use too many forms of mobility because they think it is very, very unsafe. So this is one area there that the government should really push. And I'm hoping BMTC can also push the government to make these investments in better footpaths, etc., because it will only go towards improving their own ridership. The other thing is, the usage of private transport is because they find it much more convenient, much easier. And therefore, we need to ensure how do we have integrated ticketing system, integrated information, and payment systems, everything fully integrated, so that everything, the entire route planning is available for a person end to end. And that requires a lot of data sharing and a lot more work to be done on that front, and more on that later. So can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So when we did, as a result of some of these studies, what we found was that transit stations and in this case, the transit station is a bus stop, to any industrial corridor, company campus, there have to be shorter route buses which must be available. And if BMTC is not finding it economical, then they should work on shuttle services to interior localities, residential localities, or to shopping malls, or to industrial corridors, any of these large places, large hospitals, educational institutions, etc. So these are the kinds of things that need to be planned at a very micro level. And we were hoping at this point that we could do a small pilot when COVID struck. And therefore, obviously the priorities have been a little different right now. But the larger issues in the medium term still remain. And this is a good time to really look at some of these issues of data sharing, information, route planning, ticketing, etc., while things are a little slack on this front. Next slide, please. So the other issue that really concerned us was, after COVID, we never expected a pandemic like this to happen and really disturb the entire setup. From a situation that we were 48% public transport, really the fear, it's not just for Bangalore alone. All over the world, it is the same. There is a total fear. There is a total fear of using public transport, and this is universally true world over. And therefore, we did a study in the month of May to understand the perceptions of people and how do they view public transport in the time of COVID. So what they really said, what we heard from people was that 29% of the respondents felt that a number of them felt that in the next 3 months, they found it very, very unsafe to think of using public transport. Obviously, these were people who could afford to have other means of transport. And therefore, that brings us to the other question of livelihoods and how do we look at for some people, it's an option. Traveling by bus is an option. You want to use a sustainable option, but for some others, it's a matter of livelihood, and they cannot get to their place of work, and therefore, it's a very, very big issue and a big concern. So people are encouraged to look at various alternative means. So therefore, the conclusion there is that you need to have many, many things that we need to do to make public transport safer. And we had a set of recommendations to make on making public transport safe. Not only do we need to make it safe, we also need to communicate to citizens that it is safe, and very loudly and clearly, because if citizens don't understand all the safety measures that are being taken, and if we don't take the effort to build back trust, it will take time. The people who are absolutely dependent on this will definitely use for economic reasons, will definitely continue to use public transport or try some low cost options like renting a two-wheeler or trying to take a cycle. People are using all of these. So I think we really need to ensure that communication is very strong, and we will now, during the discussion, we'll get to understand the steps that BMTC has taken, because in spite of all of this, they have seen buses, though the frequency is lower, they have been seeing buses which are running full, and we can hear more about the experiences and all the safety measures that they have taken. So some of the things that we heard, and we also put out after looking at what was happening internationally as well, social distancing is very much important. So it is not enough to just ensure that the buses are cleaned regularly, but also it doesn't run to full capacity till such time we have some control over this pandemic. Today, we are in a very unsafe zone. So ensuring that there is appropriate social distancing, safety for board crew, the people, the crew, the driver, the conductor, all of them, and physical distancing made mandatory, masks to be mandatory, boarding on one side at the back and then coming to the front, payment without having physical exchange. So these are some of the things that we could do to ensure that buses are safer, and contactless ticketing. All these are measures, and some of them BMTC has already taken, and we would love to hear from the MD herself as to what are the steps that they have taken. So with that, I think we come to the end of our discussion, and we had a couple of other points on other matters other than safety to incentivize. This is more in the medium term, to incentivize shift towards public transport. Right now, we are in the immediate case. We just want to build back trust and ensure that, and safety. And once we are done with that, I think we need to look at incentivizing shift towards public transport, which means public transport is not to be viewed as a cost, but it is to be viewed as a service which has significant benefits when it comes to health and pollution, and there are other costs that are associated with not having adequate public transport. And therefore, the government should be encouraged to look at it that way, not as a cost. So anything, fiscal incentives like free bus passes and increasing the fleet size, smaller capacity buses, or having tie-ups and partnerships with others to do the smaller route buses, etc. These are the things to be considered. And of course, the multi-agency coordination which is required, because people today do not travel by just one mode of transport. They need 2 or 3 modes if they are living in different parts of the city that are not well connected by metro. I think people use multimodal transport. So we've been talking about BMLTA. We have been saying that that authority must have the ability to prioritize all investments, looking at it in an integrated manner. And then we need very good data sharing so that there is a good digital infrastructure which allows people providing shared mobility services, public transport services, just somewhat like the way Aadhaar has done to the payment system and the financial system. If we have something like that for the mobility system, it has the ability to transform mobility in a manner in which we will not be able to imagine. And which better place than Bangalore, which is the heart of all kinds of innovation. So that is really what we want to talk about. And whether it is shared transport, which is two-wheelers, autos, cars, whatever it be, we would prefer to encourage shared transport for last mile mobility over private transport. So really, how do we do that? And with that, I come to the end of this quick summary and the context setting. And we want to cover the following themes. The perception of buses, we have already covered that through our studies and what happened, and the safety measures as well. So, and then we want to talk a little bit about the bus priority lane efficiency data and efforts for data integration, and little bit more about sustainability and green mobility and where the EV discussion stands. So, and last but not the least, the multi-agency coordination. So with this, let me open this with my first question to Shikha. We made a brief presentation to tell you, what we think we all need to do to make buses a preferred mode of transport over private transport. So would you like to comment on some of the points that we raised, both on safety measures that you have taken and the investment that you will be making in the coming years in new buses?
So the next challenge was because when we started after the lockdown, the ridership had really come down drastically. Before COVID, we were carrying around 35 lakh passengers, and post-COVID, it was reduced to around 50,000. And but gradually it increased up to 13 lakh. So just prior to this lockdown, we were carrying around 13 lakh passengers. That goes to show that Bangaloreans still have faith in BMTC, and they still consider BMTC as their primary mode of transportation. And it is still much lower than what we used to carry earlier. But yes, due to this epidemic, it will take its own time for people to get back to public transport. It's a huge challenge which we are facing now, and we have to take proper precautions and proper dissemination of information so that our commuters are aware that it is very safe to take the public transport, provided that they also take the due caution, that is wearing of masks, maintaining social distancing. Especially we have seen that while boarding and getting out of buses, there is a lot of crowding. So one has to ensure that, our safety is in our hands. So we have to ensure that while boarding the bus, there will always be a next bus. We have, because when we started after lockdown, we had planned for 1,500 buses, but looking at the crowding, we had increased up to 2,500 buses already. So we are keeping more buses on road, though the number of passengers are very less. we are putting all our buses in operation to ensure that social distancing is ensured. That's why we have taken to taking more buses on road. Our revenue has also come down drastically. Running buses in these crises is actually leading to more losses. In fact, we will make lesser loss if we don't run bus. But as you know, that it's a public service and it's a public transport which has to be provided. So with the due support from government, we have been doing that. Now coming to the bigger question of what happens when once normalcy returns, the challenges will still remain. As you have correctly pointed out, for a population of 1.2 crore, we are having 80 lakh private vehicles. And the major first thing which comes to one's mind when they talk about Bangalore is the Bangalore traffic. We are quite notorious about our traffic. It has led to snail space in roads. And the major reason for that is people taking to private transportation, which reduces the speed of buses also drastically. If you see over the years, the speed of buses also come down. We are all aware that bus carries as many passengers as maybe even 70-75 normal time. So obviously the crowding on road, traffic on road can be substantially reduced if we take public transport, and that should be the main agenda. We should aggressively push for public transport. And when I talk about public transport, it's not just buses, it is also the metro and suburban and other modes of public transport which are available in Bangalore city, including shared cabs. For that, we have also planned to integrate well with other modes of transportation. We are doing this project with the Bangalore Metro, where we are providing 90 metro feeder services exclusively for metro routes, so that where the metro station is there, from there to interior areas, we will be providing services in smaller buses, and preferably those would be electric buses. And it would also have an integrated fare collection mechanism. So once a person buys metro ticket, they don't have to buy the BMTC ticket. So that is also planned. Along with that, we are also trying to tie up with even bike companies, because again, bikes are also a very healthy and pollution-free mode of transportation. Similarly, we are also trying this fare integration overall with metro through NCMC card. Coming back to fare collection, in COVID times also, it was very important for us to ensure that there is a contactless mechanism of fare collection. For that, we have introduced QR codes in all the buses. That was the immediate step one put. So any UPI based, if someone is having a UPI based app in their phone, they can take through digital mechanism. And taking it forward, we also plan to integrate it with NCMC card metro. So these are some of the things which we have done. And obviously for increasing the share of public transport, it is also very important that the fleet size in Bangalore is increased. Right now we are having 6,200 buses, including the Volvo. And ideally for this kind of population, we should have somewhere around 10 to 12,000 buses, and which is planned in this budget. But again, this COVID has hit us badly. So what happens further is yet to be seen. And a bigger fleet will obviously mean more buses on the road and more frequency and people having more confidence, and obviously that could lead to a behavioral change, and people may come back to BMTC, because at one point of time we were carrying 50 lakh passengers and now it has dropped down to 35 lakh. So if frequency is increased, obviously behavioral change would be there. And one very important aspect would be that people should know when their bus is coming and what route it is taking and what route they want to go, so that they can plan their journey accordingly. For that also, we are already having an app, but we are coming up with a newer and a better version of the app, which is integrated with again other sources of transportation, so that an overall planning of the journey can be done by the passenger. Thank you, Ray.
Okay, so that's great. In fact, Shikha, when will this integrated system of having one card which allows you to take the fare, both the metro and the bus together, when is that going to happen? And also, when can we expect that, we can do an integrated route planning, which means take a bike to the bus stop, from the bus, go to the metro station, reach the metro, and then alight, and then, complete your entire journey end to end. When can we see something like that happening?
So integrated planning, maybe in less than 2 months, one should be able to do that. It would be an immediate thing, but integration with metro, since it's the dual agencies are involved, and in this we are already in touch with metro, and we have planned out the RFP. So it may take around say 3 months or so, but only with the kind of coordination which is required along with metro.
So we could imagine a situation where we could have some integrated planning with even bikes to get to the bus stop, right? That will also prevent a lot of people from using their own vehicles to get to the station. Of course, all this is assuming, things return to normalcy and COVID situations are more under control.
Yes, and for that we have already taken to data sharing with some of these companies. We are already having an open data policy and sharing this data with the cycle companies who have come forward, and that should not be an issue. That is also in pipeline, and that should also come about quickly as soon as normalcy returns. These are some things which you will be seeing happening on field.
This is really truly exciting, and it's unfortunate that COVID has been a little bit of a dampener. We were all so excited to see a lot of these things in the works, but I'm sure we will recover. Anyway, BMTC is one of the best managed bus services in the country, and a lot of effort is going in. My next question is to Shaheen from the Bus Prayanika Vedike. Shaheen, you know that the hardest hit in this COVID scenario has been the most vulnerable sections of population. People like you and me, all of us have options. If we feel we don't want to take the risk at this point, we have the choice. But some of these people don't even have a choice. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're hearing, and what should be some of the steps that we should take to ensure that these people who have absolutely no option are safe, and their lack of option doesn't lead to an unsafe situation for them?
Yeah, thank you, Revati, and thank you, Shikha, for sharing the initiatives that BMTC has been taking. So from Bus Prayanika Vedike, we have been trying to get a sense of how people are using the bus and what are the issues that they are facing. And we've been interacting primarily with the various working class unions and community groups that we are in touch with. And while this may not be something that can be generalized, we do hear a lot of concerns about frequency being low and waiting time being high, because there is also a capacity limit in the buses. We are not buses are not running to full capacity, so because of which multiple buses, even if the buses are there, the waiting time increases because you cannot board a full bus. Then we are also hearing issues, and I think, like Shikha said, number of buses that are running now are fewer. Therefore, there are many areas where people are also saying that they have connectivity issues. They're not getting buses. Overcrowding is also being reported. While we are saying that we're trying to control the intake. I mean, there are people who are also saying that the buses are overcrowded. There is a fear of infection that people are talking about. So these are, I mean, if you look at the current and immediate issues that we are hearing from commuters and general public, I mean, these are the issues that we see, and we feel that despite this being a pandemic and despite the ridership being low, probably we need to look at increasing buses so that the frequency can be more reliable. Then again, ridership can increase because of that, and people will be able to access their workplaces, etc., better. Then another thing that we probably need to look at is how we can improve the safety measures for commuters also. I mean, some of the things that we had earlier also suggested was, installing hand sanitizers for commuters at the point of entry. Plus, probably, I know, more widely publicizing the safety protocols that BMTC is following. Like, say, for instance, are we sanitizing the bus every few hours, or are we sanitizing after every few trips, or what is the sort of frequency in which sanitization is being done? So these kind of things are not known in general. If that can be publicized, I think the perception of safety also will improve much further. And then I think scheduling is also something that we need to look at. Scheduling needs to be reliable. I mean, it's okay if frequency is low, like, but at least, it needs to be reliable and known. People should be able to predict the availability, that, in such and such time the bus will come and I'm able to take the bus and go. Because again, waiting times ranging from 30 minutes to 2 hours is being talked by different people. So of course the 2 hours may be an exception, and probably during afternoons and things like that, but even 30-40 minutes of waiting time is really high for people to have a reliable transport. So these are some of the current issues that we are hearing. And another big thing that we also want to highlight is about how are we assessing the current mobility needs. I mean, see, earlier the 45 lakh or even the 35 lakh passengers we had and what routes they were taking is probably not reflective of the needs that exist right now. So that is another thing that we need to look at, because the situation is probably going to continue for many more months. I mean, we're not really seeing a solution in sight in terms of the pandemic situation easing. So we should plan for a longer time when the situation might sustain. So looking at how do we reach the people who are currently not being reached by BMTC, people who are dependent on BMTC for transport. We don't really know, we don't have a full understanding of what are their needs, where are they living and where are they commuting to. So some effort needs to be taken to assess the needs also, and probably redeploy to cater to the more immediate and essential needs that BMTC should be serving. So these are some of the sort of immediate measures that we see that are needed. I also just want to add a few more points in terms of framing the issue of transport. I mean, see, we've been talking a lot about technical issues and operational issues, but can we also frame this as an issue of rights and access to the city? So what does a public transport do? I mean, a public transport actually enables people's right to city. I mean, in a way, right to access the city, and this is essential for all kinds of needs. I mean, whether it is education or health or livelihood, this is the public transport becomes really an essential enabler for people to be able to access and live well in the city. And current situation, this because of the economic crisis, this is even more accentuated because people who are trying to get to their work, already jobs are being lost, and salaries are being cut, etc. And the working class is already suffering. And on top of that, if mobility is also curtailed, then their access to livelihood itself becomes constrained, and that is a even more crucial situation right now that we need to focus on. And therefore designing the bus to serve the essential needs of that community which is making the city function. I mean, whether it is our street vendors or whether it is the parakarmikas, whether it is our garment workers or construction workers, all of them are continuing to access and go to work. I mean, and bus is what is one of the central things that provide that access. So that framing the issue as enabling access to people at a unsafe time, and providing that safe and reliable access, I think becomes the most important framing we feel at a time like this and beyond also. So it's not just about reducing congestion or reducing traffic, improving the health conditions, or pollution, reducing pollution. These are all ways in which we frame the public transport issue. But we also want to remind everyone that this is it is primarily and first and foremost an issue of enabling access to city. So that becomes a very crucial angle that we would like to highlight. A couple more things.
Thanks.
I mean,
we'll come back to you, Shaheen, because we have other people. So
Sure.
Thank you, Shaheen. Shika, would you like to respond to some of these issues? For example, the most vulnerable are the people who are struggling for livelihood today because of lack of transport. And have you looked at repurposing the buses for some of these people? I don't know how they were traveling. They would have been traveling by buses, but a special attention to see, because a lot of the people who are traveling to larger offices were all are all working from home, but the most vulnerable are the people having to go to their workplaces. So have you done any study about the changing immediate change in pattern of the people who are traveling and most likely to use the bus because of no other option?
We have done this kind of flow pattern where the traffic origin point and destination point is, and according to that only we have been scheduling our buses. So you would see that schedules are not static based on the what we were doing in May, say February, March, and what we are doing now is totally different. So the current demand pattern has been studied in principle, and accordingly we have tried to provide buses, and even frequency is dependent on that. So if you see during peak time, there is huge, and peak time, that is only morning time, office time, going time and returning time in the evening, there is huge crowd, whereas during daytime, otherwise in afternoon, the number of frequency has been drastically reduced because obviously there are no takers for the bus. So the current, and simultaneously we have also kept in mind the increasing diesel cost. So it is useless to run empty kilometers when there are no passengers in the afternoon. So based on the demand pattern, the new scheduling has been done. I agree with Shaheen when she says certain pockets could be left out. But since it is a very fluid situation, right now it is a very dynamic situation, it is ever changing. So those things also have to be taken into account while scheduling the buses. And also coming to Shaheen's very valid point that vulnerable section and their paying capacity. This is one thing which obviously we and government have to collectively look into. Delhi has also come up with certain programs of certain schemes of free travel for women. For Bangalore, what we have done till now is there is free travel for construction laborers, and the amount is cross-subsidized by Labor Department. And this year also government has given a scheme of free transfer for garment women workers. These are a few sections, and along with that there are certain pensioner categories who get this benefit. So there are few categories which get this benefit of free travel or subsidized travel. But there are certain other vulnerable sections who are not in any of these schemes. So yes, that is something which at policy level one has to look at. And coming to the point of last mile connectivity, and I could also go through some of the queries in the chat box where they are talking about insurance cover to the our staff and our crew. So for BMTC, what facilities we are providing to our crew till now? 176 of our crew were affected by COVID, and most of them have already recovered and are back. So, and they are also availing of home isolation facility. We are taking care of their medical expenses, and for home isolation, we are providing them with a kit consisting of pulse oximeter, thermometer, and sanitizers, gloves, and masks, and all the provisions to keep them safe, and so that they don't transmit it to their caretakers. These are some of the things, and obviously, God forbid, in eventuality of any death, we have announced a compensation of 30 lakh rupees. So these are some of the measures taken for safety of our crew.
Okay, thank you, Shika. We'll now move to Sonal, who has been looking at planning. And Sonal, can we hear from you? And we'll come back to Shika after that on the bus priority lane as one of the key elements to ensure that buses move faster. Of course, that is again a more medium-term requirement, but Can you talk a little bit about what is the kind of planning and thinking that is going into it, as well as what are the experiences world over? We have found that public transport has suffered a lot in this pandemic. And I happened to listen to a different analogy, but I was listening to the Delta CEO, and he was saying that he doesn't expect to fill his middle seat for the next foreseeable future till such time he believes that air travel is completely safe. So and they're having a chief medical officer and a whole bunch of things that to bring back confidence in air travel. So when air travel, which is a little bit more rarefied, is itself looking at so many things, bus travel is more prone to a whole host of risks. So what kind of planning are you all looking at? Have you all done some study on what international experiences are there, and are there some best practices that we can follow? So two questions. One is on safety, the other is on bus priority lanes and the plans for the city.
Yeah, thank you, Revati, and hi everyone. So basically, on your first question about safety, world over, actually, as you said, the buses and public transport have suffered the most due to this pandemic, and many cities have taken the initiative to actually, while they unlock, bring in the public transport. If you see London, for example, they have actually said that they cannot do with more cars on the street at this moment when there is this pandemic. So they have ensured that they enhance their frequency of buses and also provide the metro services at a regular basis, and along with all the social distancing measures, which I think BMTC is already taking care of. But along with this, many cities have actually seen this as an opportunity to make shift in the behavior changes of people by providing more infrastructure to also shift people towards non-motorized transport, mostly cycling. So a lot of cities are giving emphasis towards providing pop-up bicycle lanes and bicycle infrastructure. Like you see Paris, for example, around 650 kilometers, the mayor of Paris has actually promised and is building 650 kilometers of bicycle tracks across the city. And same with London. These are all pop-up lanes, and you see that when you build this infrastructure, people come. Right, we are seeing a lot of bicycle users in London using the infrastructure that is being built by the mayor of London as well. So I think along with the bus, we also need to also give equal importance to cycling, because this is the time and this is the opportunity to make people have that shift and make that shift. And if you see, even in Bangalore, there has been a lot of buying of cycles that is happening, and people are right now using these cycles because gyms are closed and people want to use this for their health purposes. But we can also we can also see that this shift can happen if the infrastructure is built at this period of time. So that's on the what is happening world over. Coming to the bus priority lane, I think BMTC took a wonderful step last year, I think in October, November, to actually make ORR as a bus priority lane on the outer ring road as a pilot, and then also build all the high density corridors, 12 high density corridors, same infrastructure, which is the bus priority lane. So what the priority provides is it gives that equity to a transport mode which is actually catering to more number of people than a car which is providing only mobility to 1 or 2 people or 4 at the max. So that equity was really important, and I'm very glad that Bangalore City took this step. Actually, DULT had done a plan for doing bus only lane, actually BRTS, on the same corridor, that is the outer ring road, but that did not take shape. And I'm glad that this happened now and not later on. So during the planning, I think the most importance was given to how the bus priority, where the bus priority lane will come on this whole stretch of road. And we decided to go with the leftmost lane near the curb side on the main carriageway. Just because we know that the metro is going to come tomorrow, and we don't want to, like, we don't want to make a plan which will not cater to that coming in the future. And then we also went ahead and sort of saw where the diverging and like where the merges will happen, right? So where do we provide the merging sections? So when a car has to, or when a bus has to go from not a bus, but a car has to merge from the service lane onto the ORR, the main carriageway, where does it do it? It shouldn't be given too many opportunities to do this merging, because then the priority of the bus lane itself goes away. So these were certain points that we took into consideration while doing the planning of the bus priority lane.
Coming back to Shikha, I think you know that we were all on that bus ride on day one. Not day one, but when we actually announced, and this was one of the best things that could have happened to the city. And obviously, we want more of this. So what are the plans, Shikha, of using this time in COVID to increase the number of bus priority lanes in the city into many of the high density corridors? Is there some work going on? And when will that be ready? And what are the challenges that you faced? And how do you think we can move on this whole concept of bus priority lane significantly?
Yes, bus priority lane is one of the very good things that could happen to BMTC as well as to the people in Bangalore. We have seen substantial reduction in time taken to travel. That's pilot stretch, which is between Central Silk Board and up to KR Puram crossing in the ORR road. And there has been also an increase in ridership in that area. And based on the outcomes of the pilot, government has already announced these bus priority lanes in 12 other high density corridors. So this was also announced in this budget. For that already, along with DULT, we have started the drawings and sketch for the 3 other corridors. And it would be great, because if the time reduction is, there is reduction in travel time, obviously people will prefer to take to bus, especially in these high density corridors. And simultaneously, these choke points can be also easily eased out. So this was again a multi-departmental approach in which we needed the help of Metro, DULT, Bangalore Traffic Police, BBMP, and all these departments have come together. And the newer ones, the other 12 ones, would be implemented by KRDCL. So these 12 high density corridors have been planned to be handed over from BBMP to KRDCL, and KRDCL will be the nodal single agency which will be taking care of these 12 high density corridors.
And when do you think those would be ready? Any idea? What is the target date for operation?
Okay, so the prior target was this financial year, but as I said again, COVID has changed a lot of dates and a lot of programs. But we have started the work on these 3 corridors. So I think shortly it should come through, and KRDCL is the nodal agency, so that it makes it easier to coordinate with a single agency.
Right, because I think we must use this time of lockdown to make all these changes, because infrastructure changes at this time would be much easier. And you know, when things are better, the infrastructure would have caught up with it. So hopefully we will see all the 12 bus corridors coming online. I think with that, we are at 7:30 and we want to take a few questions. Shaheen, you had some last comments to make. If you can make it very quickly, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things. One, the route, I mean, we need some kind of a comprehensive route planning which better reflects the needs, because, many dormant needs in the, particularly in the working class communities and, interior areas, etc., probably not getting mapped. If we can do that kind of an exercise, again, at a time like this, it really gives us a foundation to build further when we are able to provide better services. So some kind of a route planning and need assessment, particularly extending to communities which are more vulnerable, and tapping the needs from there and capturing that and planning the services around that I think is one thing that we would want to stress on. The other two things that I wanted to say is, one, we have to recognize the fact that bus is going to be the central mode, irrespective of all other modes that we have. I mean, whether we have metro, whether we have suburban, etc. Bus gives a lot of flexibility, versatility, and COVID, in fact, has brought that out. It's only because we had bus that we could offer that mobility to citizens. I mean, a service like metro cannot run during a pandemic because it's an air-conditioned, circulating kind of a mechanism in which it is the spread is. The risk is greater, but with BMTC, that risk can be contained much better than in, say, a metro. Even a route redeployment is much easier when it comes to bus. So bus is a much more lasting and flexible public transport solution, and a lot of people will continue to use that. So I think what we want to say is that investing in bus and recognizing the centrality of bus. Again, this is an opportunity for us to reimagine transport, with bus having that central role in public transport. And the third thing I wanted to say is that, economic packages, when we look at whether it is the COVID specific economic packages that are being planned or even otherwise, we should see transport as a socio-economic infrastructure of the city, and enabling that through multiple ways of investing in buses, whether it is more buses, more staff to run those buses, better public transport infrastructure, all of these, last mile connectivity, all of these, need investment. And whether it is a state government or the central government, I think there is a need to plan for greater funding for buses. All this while, public transport funding has gone to metro more than buses. So probably, now is the time to even financially prioritize buses and BMTC. So these are the things that we wanted to say.
Okay, thank you very much. I think with that, we will now take up some questions. I think, will somebody read out some of the key questions that have come up so that we can take them up? Shonali?
Yes. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions. Our first question is for Ms. Shikha. It was about the integration of mobility services through a single app and the possibility of enabling buses with GPS so that we can have an app for real-time tracking of buses. So if you could just talk about the possibility of that happening.
So the app was very much there. The My BMTC app was there, and I think around 1 lakh odd people had downloaded it also. But the only thing is, it was also GPS based, where one could know the real time arrival and estimated time of arrival of a bus. But due to the rescheduling of buses post COVID, we have the app is no more useful. But obviously, soon we would be, once the normalcy returns and the routes are frozen, we would again be initiating it. And a better app is also in pipeline, and under Nirbhaya scheme we are planning to install fresh sets of VTUs for all the vehicles and come up with a better version of the app, in which even the integration with other services including metro, cycles, bicycle sharing, Yulu integration will also be there.
Got it. Thank you. Our next question is for Ms. Sonal Kulkarni. If you could please just give us your opinion on the possibility of opening bus lanes to cyclists only, just as a safety precaution, because it is dangerous. It is quite dangerous otherwise. So the possibility of opening it up just to cyclists?
Is that during the pandemic when the bus frequency is less, or in general? The question, I mean, I just want to clarify that question.
I think it's in general, but considering now that traffic is less, it may make more sense looking at it once lockdown is completely open.
I think it's definitely possible. London does this, where they allow the cyclists to use the bus lane, but there needs to be safety precautions that need to be taken up. So we need to train the bus drivers and also the cyclists to not be aggressive on this lane if they're going to take this lane. And yeah, it's possible.
Thank you. We have one more question for you, and it's about the location of bus stands. So how are the bus stand locations decided, and when was the last alignment of bus stands made in Bangalore?
So basically, bus stand has to be present at every 500 meters because that the density of bus stands is depending on, like, so it also depends on the road networks and where the bus plies. But generally, a distance between one bus stand and another should be not less than 500 meters. So that's how you design bus shelters or bus stands. And what was the other part of the question?
When was the last alignment of bus stands made in Bangalore?
I am not sure, actually. Maybe ma'am can take the question.
Yes, I'll just like to chip in here. Sonal is right. Ideally, it is 500. The distance between two bus stands is 500 meters. It is inquired into and looked upon by BBMP. They take the public opinion also into consideration, the traffic pattern also into consideration before deciding on a bus stand. And when was last orientation done? It's a very dynamic procedure because we have seen new bus stands come up in recent times. So I don't think there is a one-time activity of orientation of bus stands. It's a dynamic activity which keeps on happening. And any such request from public can come directly to either BMTC or BBMP. We can take it up.
Thank you. As a follow-up question to this, with changes in road alignments like conversion of two ways into one way, road repairs, tree felling, metro construction, and so on, how effective are present bus stand locations?
So as I said, once a metro comes up, obviously the bus stands also change. So we are seeing that latest wherever for example, in Banshankari route where Yelchenhalli was the last stop and now the metro is extending further. So in such cases where new roads are converging, new stations are coming up, it's a dynamic procedure, and the departments in consultation with each other and in consultation with public, they keep changing the orientation and placement of bus stops. And coming back to that question on cycle, so I don't think right now we are ready for having cycle movement on the bus lanes itself, because we have been doing it on a pilot basis. So it is better to let buses stabilize first, and then we may have, because right now what the space has given to bus is just enough for the bus to squeeze in. So I don't know whether it will be safe for cyclists to move on that. There are a lot of queries on financial situation of BMTC. Would you like to take it up?
Yes, we will come to that, ma'am. Just more a question on bus lanes. How do you plan to expand the roads to accommodate bus lanes, considering the already small width of the main roads in the city?
So ideally, bus lanes are coming up only where there are already 3 lanes available. So one lane is exclusively earmarked for buses, and then 2 lanes are left out for the remaining traffic. And where there are 2 lanes, there we would not talk about a static bus lane or a permanent bus lane. It would be more of a pop-up bus lane where only during peak time the bus lanes would be there. Otherwise, it would be a mixed traffic. So this is the policy which state government is following as of now.
And actually, just to add to that, world over, a bus priority lane generally does not have bollards, but looking at the traffic behaviors in India, I think we went with the bollards. But generally, a bus priority lanes just means that it's just earmarked and painted and marked, like the line marking is done. But generally, no bollards are placed if you see world over. So yeah. So the lane width will not matter, is what I'm trying to say. It's the priority
I
given to the buses.
see
Sorry.
some people are raising their hands. We are restricting the questions only to the chat box. So just request everybody to put their messages into the chat box and we will pick it up. Shikha, if you could take up this question on financials, which is coming repeatedly, that would be good.
Okay, so these questions have been asked by 4 viewers, and a very valid point where people are saying BMTC is a loss-making entity. Yes, we agree. City buses can never be a profit-making entity, and we are not even doing it for profit. And because it is not feasible to make it a profitable business, our aim is to provide maximum coverage, and in that we would require assistance from both state and central government. As you know, in this COVID time, the state government has assisted us by virtue of paying the salaries of our staff for last 4 months, and this month also there was one query on delay in salary payment. So it is at least to us now, and not just this month, for next 4 months also government has taken care of. So these are some of the things, but when I talk about assistance, it would include 2-3 things. One, direct assistance from the government. Second would be disincentive to go for private transport. It could be by way of taxes, it could be by way of petrol cess or diesel cess, which we had done for metro, where every liter of the petrol, diesel, 1 rupee went to metro. So those kind of cross subsidizing and cess mechanism. Or there could also be, like in BMLTA, what we are working on is the particular taxes and cess collection comes directly to the mobility sector, especially if it's a public transport, based on the FAR, based on the conversion, or based on the kind of property which is coming up. So these are some of the mechanisms which one has to seriously pursue, and in that thing, BMLTA would be a great help, because that takes into consideration all of these. And there are some of the learning experiences from London Transport for All, and there also similar kind of incentives and disincentives were made. And also parking, we should make parking like right now we are seeing that people have taken parking on road for granted, and we should levy some kind of parking fees on that, so that would also act as a disincentive for people to bring out their private vehicle.
Shikha, I'm glad you mentioned about parking, because we have given detailed recommendations. DPAC has given very detailed recommendations to on the parking policy, which was recently announced, which actually incentivizes people to use their private vehicles. And we have said, create a hierarchy of parking charges based on whether it is supporting first and last mile connectivity, and higher to EV vehicles and higher to shared mobility, rather than and with wherever it is connecting up to public transport. So unless we do these kinds of things, public parking policy cannot be viewed independent of public transport. It has to be an enabler for public transport. So if we make it more convenient for people to use private transport, then they will start using it. So these are the kinds of things that the people have to think through, and maybe we'll have another discussion. But these are things that we have already proposed to DULT when they put out their policy, and I hope they're going to take this up seriously and look at the hierarchy, both in terms of making parking available with a preference to shared mobility and EV rather than to private, so that it encourages people to provide that to encourage first and last mile connectivity. So I think we are running out of time, and unless we have any pressing questions, I'd like to close. Sonali, can we close this? Unless we have very, very pressing
Yes,
points.
just one last question to Ms. Shaheen Shasa. If you could just give us a brief idea about what you mean by the right to mobility.
See, I mean, the way typically mobility is being talked about is as a sort of a consumer and a provider kind of a relationship. But I mean, when you frame it as a right, the framing becomes very different. I mean, you look at it from a different perspective. You're providing access to city for various fundamental rights to be realized. So that's why we would like to frame the issue as right to mobility rather than as a service being provided and as a consumer accessing a service, but more as a citizen accessing a right. I mean, that's how we want to frame it, because mobility in a city enables many other rights, whether it is right to education, right to livelihood, right to health. All of this can be realized for everyone equitably only if we have a equitable, mobility access for everyone. So that's the framing that we are talking about.
Yeah. Thanks, Shaheen. I think with that, any closing comments, Shikha, from your side? Shikha, do you want to leave the audience with any last thoughts? Because bus is the most emotional issue for the city right now.
Yes, yes, this has been a very full discussion and many points have come out, including one very relevant point which was made during course of discussion, that this pandemic has shown that buses are the only way out during pandemic, because other modes of public transport could take off. So keeping that in to ensure that how to strengthen the PMTC organization. It has been even worldwide, or if we compare it with other cities in India, I don't think cities in India post-COVID carried 13 lakh passengers, which we have without causing any kind of inconvenience to people, and without any kind of much hazard. And we, to keep it up, it is very important that BMTC is strengthened, and we have a very strong team at BMTC here, and we would look forward to extending our services further.
Shikha, really kind of you. We are so thrilled to have you leading BMTC. You've been always available to each one of us, and really thank you for that. If you can please somehow, I'll ask Rajiv to make some closing remarks, but in the meanwhile, at least you can adjust your camera for us, for the audience to see you. That will be great. We'll take one last picture if we can on a gallery view. And it was really thank you for all your support. Anyway, over to you, Rajiv.
Well, Shika's camera may be having a different orientation, but her commitment and BMTC's orientation towards moving Bengalurians safely and has been very much on the mark. And I think I want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you, Revati, for orchestrating this very, really engaging discussion. We've covered so many different facets. And Sonal has brought in the planning perspective. Shaheen has emphasized how we need to think about, public transport essentially as a right. And that, of course, makes us, and generally the entire theme and the questions, the audience engagement, everything shows us that, public transport, buses especially, are a very central priority for people from Bengaluru, and I think everywhere. And this is something that should really bring in a paradigm shift in the way the government prioritizes buses and funding for BMTC and other transport corporations. And I'm so happy to hear that, construction workers, government workers, etc., senior citizens, all of them are being given free transportation. We have to ensure that, transportation is accessible and available to especially the more disadvantaged and vulnerable of our fellow citizens. I think this discussion is going to take us in that direction. And I know this Bengaluru Moving, this summit series that we've been having has generated a range of very interesting suggestions and points. We're going to compile them all together and engage with senior policymakers, representatives, and I think this will all cumulatively have an impact on improving transportation options for all of us in this city. And it's been fascinating. Thank you, Revati. Thank you, Shikha. Thank you, Shaheen. Thank you, Sonal, and Shonali as well.